we'll roll along here for a few minutes and see what happens. And I think
Hello, groomers are trying to reach you. Sunday, Easter Sunday, 2019. We're here, or I'm here.
Oh, it does. Okay. Okay. Hang on. I just found me. Oh, this is exciting. Okay.
We're getting there.
We're going to share this.
Sure.
Copy the link. Okay. Hang on. Almost there. Here we go. Paste. And post.
So you just posted the YouTube link to the Facebook page? Is that
yes.
What you just said?
No. I Facebook page the YouTube link. Okay. There. All right. Now I wonder, when I'm on Facebook, I can tell how many people are watching, but I can't tell how many people are watching here, I don't think. Maybe through chat. Nope. Through chat. It just shows you and me. Okay, well, I'm going to monitor the Facebook page for comments. So let me pull that up. And then we'll just assume. Yeah, we'll just assume somebody's watching.
We're here. Are you there?
Okay. Okay. New link above. Okay. Let's go up here. Okay. Let me know who is watching, so that we know at least somebody's watching. Okay, you guys, if you're watching, if you found the link, if you've made it all the way here, I've got the Facebook page up, and I've got the link that has the actual link to this. That's the one I'm going to monitor. So I'm watching that, even though I'll pop up onto the other one if I need to. So let's just chat for a minute, Barbara, before we actually go on live, even though I pretty much, we should probably just roll ahead, I would think.
Well, this is our Easter/Earth Day. Interesting that they both start with an E. Isn't that interesting? Just notice that.
Yes.
It's our Easter/Earth Day celebration. I've got the bunny ears going. I wore the bunny ears all day yesterday, and only and it did make people smile.
That's cool.
And that's cool.
Okay. Okay, I know we've got a couple people watching now, so let's go ahead and let me start the show. Or well, better yet, Barbara, let's let you start the show.
Hello, groomers. Hi, Susie. What's up?
Hey, groomers. Hi, Barbara. Welcome to GroomPod episode live number 4, I think, because I couldn't figure that out. Recorded on April 21st, Easter and Earth Day, as Barbara says, in Snohomish, Washington, Tucson, Arizona, and hopefully watched by lots of people all over the place. So today on the GroomPod, we're going to talk about tear staining, environmental footprints, and back brushing. You can join our discussion on right now on the Facebook page. I'm monitoring it under the feed that says I'll be monitoring this feed during the Facebook group. So that's where I'll be. So Barbara, hey, did anything go on? Anything interesting?
A little something different happened this week. Oh my God. Everybody, I don't know if people who are watching realize it, but I got a huge total surprise. Now, it's really interesting the way that Susie went behind my back.
I felt so sneaky. Oh my God.
She conspired with Yvonne to keep it a secret. And she solicited from the GroomPod funds to give me a large size industrial indoor swamp cooler for my shop, so that maybe I can stay below 90 degrees this summer. And it was like shortly after High Roseman posted how much he had suffered when he came down for a day of learning with me. Boy, he did suffer too. And actually, that was just That was in May already. It wasn't even bad yet. And he died, like, which just goes to show you there is something about how we acclimate to our own environments. I've been grooming in that shop for like 40 some years, and it gets hot in the summer, but it did last summer. The swamp cooler on the roof died its last gasp, and my funky landlord, we won't get into that too much. He gave up. He disowned the cooling of my premises 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I allowed an employee's husband to give us a bigger cooler motor without asking the landlord if I could install a better cooler motor, because his wife, who was my assistant at the time, was suffering. So I did that. And he was so upset that he just said, okay, the cooler is on you from now on.
I can totally see him doing that. The little curmudgeon guy.
The little curmudgeon gun shop owner guy.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So,
well, let me tell you how it developed.
Yeah. So, how did it go? How did that come about, Susie?
So you had the conversation about Milton and the big tip for the cooling, right?
Yeah. Right.
And at that point, I started to think, I got to arrange some way to let the GroomPod people help me get you some cooling for the summer. And then right after that aired, because we record on Sundays, and then it doesn't air till sometime later the week, sometimes the beginning of next week. There's a little bit of time that goes on. So I had started ruminating and trying to figure out how to surprise Barbara and how to talk to you guys, the GroomPod listeners, without her knowing I'm talking to the GroomPod listeners, right? And so then the episode posts, and then all of a sudden there's threads popping up about how can we give money for Barbara. And I'm like, no, we've got to pull these down. I'm trying to do this as a surprise.
I didn't see any of those.
No, because I know when you're online. I know you have timing patterns. So I left it up momentarily, and I thought, where can I notify everybody of this little sneaky thing that I want to make happen? Because everybody was more than willing to help. It was really cool. And other people had the same idea as I had. I just hadn't really put it into motion. But when everybody stepped up, I'm like, okay, now I've got to figure out how to do it. So the only place I could think of to speak to everyone was on the podcast, because I knew you didn't play the podcast. So I immediately pulled the post down about cooling, and then I put up a podcast, a 2-minute podcast that said, if you guys want to help me get cooling to Barbara's shop, donate to the donation button. I'll take all that money and buy the biggest swamp cooler I can possibly get her, and I'll surprise her, right? Then then all of a sudden the money started pouring in from everywhere, which was really cool. I mean, it's great that you guys support the show in general, but when something like this needs to happen and you guys all so graciously stepped up, it is just was overwhelming. And so I immediately spent my days off that I would have normally, which I had days off this week, that I would have normally spent doing the podcast. I spent learning everything I could possibly learn about cooling systems because I didn't want to make the wrong choice. So then we, in like a day and a half, we had enough money to buy the swamp cooler. And so then I realized that I have a cohort that moved down to your area. Right. So I'm like, Mary, you got to go over to Barbara's shop and tell me what the square footage is. Cause I'm pretty sure that if I ask Barbara, she's going to get suspicious. I don't think Yvonne's going to know. I need somebody who's got a good, like, spatial sense to walk in there and just go down and say hi and take a look around the freaking shop and tell me how big it is, right? And then she's like, well, we can do even better. We can actually pick it up and deliver it on Wednesday. We'll go pick it up at Lowe's or Home Depot or Costco or wherever you can find it here in Tucson. And then we'll bring it to her and we'll film it and it'll be the coolest thing ever. And then I found out that it had to come from California to get a big enough one to so that I felt like I was doing a good thing. I
Marco.
had I had to get it from it had to be sent from California, but it was only one day. But the only way to get it sent wasn't to send it to the store, was to send it straight to the shop. I knew you'd be in on Wednesday. I knew I could buy it on Tuesday and send it on Wednesday. So I spent hours, literally hours, researching this. And then I thought, well, I'll get a warranty so that if anything happens to it, you can just take it back down there and they'll fix it or give you a new one for 2 years. So thank you to everybody here. I want to read all the names off. I'm just going to go with the first names. And if I miss anybody, I'm really sorry, because the donation emails were coming in and I tried to collect them up together, but they came in groupings and it was a little confusing. So Angela, Brittany, Jessica, Courtney, Jean, Lynn, Chris, Maria, and Amy, and me, we all did it. It was a group effort, and I was so happy that Yvonne was able to video it. That was the really coolest part. And she knew when it was coming. They were sending me emails. It's like it left California at 7 o'clock at night. And I'm thinking, it's 8 hours to Tucson. Is this even going to work? Are they really going to deliver it? But they sure enough did. And tell me how you felt when you saw it, because I could see a little bit on the video, but I want to know.
The video is a little blurry. That we see now why we don't assign more photographic tasks to Yvonne.
I thought she did good. I was just happy.
Yeah, I mean, at least I was in the picture. But
yes.
I'm also trying to coach her a little bit. I didn't know what was happening. I got a sense that something was up. Like she did her best to curb her enthusiasm, but she got so excited about this. She wants me to tell everybody that they made an old Mexican lady very, very happy, because she just loved seeing it and being in the middle of it happening. If she had had the money, she would have gotten one for me herself. But I don't know. I was kind of gobsmacked. I was kind of like, whoa. I didn't quite, and this is typical of me, is that my reactions oftentimes come a little bit delayed, a little bit later. And as it sinks in and as I get it about how much I'm loved.
Oh, it's so cool.
It was so cool. I'm just like, so many damn levels, everybody. You can't, plus just the relief of knowing that we've got a solution.
Yeah.
And I didn't have to buy a roof cooler for the funky landlord that wouldn't help me. He let us just broil.
Yeah, that wasn't fair.
Last year, he never even stepped in to see how we were doing. He just let us freaking fry.
Yes, well,
and,
we've got a solution.
So we got a solution. So, interestingly enough, it's the same brand as the portable what swamp cooler I bought myself last year that just didn't quite cut it. And this is, like 3 times the size.
That was the hope.
Yeah, it's gonna make a real difference. Now, the thing of it is, we've got to find a way to plug it in.
Yeah.
Because it's got a big mother plug. And so we just kind of got to work around that. And we're busy thinking about how to do that.
Okay.
I could either get an appliance extension cord, heavy duty, and we'll run it up over the door and over there. We're going to put it by the front door, because that's another thing. When you use these indoor swamp coolers, they have to be by an open window or a door,
I read that.
so that it will suck the air. And my first so my first thing was, I thought we would put it in the back so I could run a hose from the tub, because that's the other thing. It's 10 gallons, and that's 10 trips if you're using a gallon pitcher, which we were using. So also I went and bought a 10-gallon bucket with a spout, and we'll use that.
Good.
But I was going to put it back there, and then I realized that there was that's the dead zone. That's the dead air zone back there. It has no place to draw fresh air in to cool it. So we're going to put it up front, kind of where I have a whole lot of foliage. We'll kind of put it in the little forest. It will look kind of like I look today, with the little forest behind me. Yeah, it'll just be kind of tucked in there, this big, huge thing. And
so does this mean, when I was reading and doing my research, does this mean that I shouldn't fix the window until the end of the summer?
I don't know yet.
Figure that out, because I've got a guy who did my flooring and all my electrical up here, who owns a house in Tucson, and he's a contractor. So he has friends in the neighborhood that we could actually trust to come over with the extra money we have left over from the air conditioner and fix that window.
Well, you see, there has to be kind of a holistic approach to the total airflow in the building, and the crux of it is there's no back air source.
Right. So then,
although I do have one small window that's kind of got it's kind of boarded up, except there's a hole where we had an exhaust fan, and now I have a box fan that's pointed out. So we may end up kind of freeing that up. Because the air needs to come in one place and go out the other. I need to be able to locate other fans to keep moving the air.
Okay, then let me ask you this. Do we need a screen door, a security door for the front door instead?
Well, that's a big expense.
It's not that big. I just did it on my own house. I have methods.
Yes, but I'm going to tell you something. The wood around my door out there, it's fucked.
Okay. Sorry, guys. That one's going out. Okay, well, we should probably move on from this subject.
So thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful surprise, and I just couldn't believe it when the delivery man was a real cool young guy, and Yvonne made him wait outside for a while she positioned me so that I could receive my surprise.
That's so cool.
He was just dancing on air, waiting to deliver this surprise. It was so much fun, and it was kind of mind-blowing for me, and I just had to get over my feeling like I should have done it for myself, and just realize that you're my family.
Yeah.
And and I'm not alone, and all of that good stuff. Thank you so much. We'll keep you posted.
Yes. So
we'll keep the temperature.
Yeah.
No, let you know.
So we also will happily wait for. I've lost the name of that dog. What's the dog? The dog's name? The schnauzer.
Milton.
Thank you. We'll happily wait for Milton's dad to walk in, and then he can feel like he did the whole thing himself.
Yeah. And so what I think I do need kind of a handyman that can take the overview, not a real task specific handyman. You know what I'm saying? Because
yes,
I need
one that's not going to rip us off.
Yeah, one that's not going to rip us off and all of that, but also one that can take a whole overview of all of the appliances. I've got two swamp coolers in there. I've got a whole load of box fans and desktop fans, and we need to work the whole air system inside that little place.
Yes.
So stay tuned. We'll let you know.
Cool. Well, I also want to say we've got a new GroomPodster on Patreon. So Kate McDonald, who I do have a last name for, thank you very much. She's donating to our lovely podcast, Tipping Your Groomers. And if you guys want to do that, thank you. You can do that at Patreon. You can also do it at Amazon by shopping through our website at the bottom of our page at thegroompod.com. You just click on the banner. It's got my headphones or the one that has pet supplies. It takes you into Amazon and you can do your shopping like usual. And they give us a teeny tiny percentage. And believe me, every little drip in the bucket helps. All right. So this week, I did actually, it was just yesterday, a really immense double de-shedding. I did a de-shedding on a Pekingese. I don't see many Pekingese. Do you see many?
No, we just don't see that breed just kind of diminished on out, didn't it? Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
Just don't see him.
I got this adorable little red with white feet Pekingese.
Oh, how cute is that?
With lovely hair, never been cut, so it's beautiful. It just feels like it's not quite chinchilla hair, but it feels so soft. And the dog is delightful. Her name is Mimi, but she hadn't been de-shedded for a long time, and of course it's spring, so I got to de-shed that dog, and I used Best Shot One Shot detangling and deodorizing system on this dog because I could smell a little dog pee on the dog. It's assisted living. It's a yucky carpet, I'm sure. So I took out all three parts of the Best Shot One Shot, which is the shampoo, the conditioner, and then the deodorizing spray afterwards. And that dog smelled so fantastic. And I totally owe it all to Best Shot. And if you guys would like to get some Best Shot for yourself, it is available. Are you ready for this? Internationally. I'm going to just read you off a bunch of places that have Best Shot. They have it at Hudson Sales in British Columbia. They have it at Technogroom in United Kingdom. They have it at Sewing in Portland, Wren's in Ontario, OPF in Japan, DGS in Australia, and Fortune International in China. Not to mention locally.
Good. So I want to I just spontaneously react to one little thing I heard. Assisted living. If I were 30 years old again, and if I were starting out in this profession, what I would do is I would work with one of my larger, posher, high end assisted living complexes to put a dog grooming parlor in their place.
Oh, this is freakish, Barbara. Are you listening to the traveling groomers?
No.
They just talked about this.
See, I think that's the smartest thing. I think that's the future. Because the present is that more and more assisted living places are realizing they've got to let these old people have a pet.
For sure.
I saw a whole bunch of old ladies sitting in chairs and wheelchairs waiting for the bus to come, and there were dogs in their laps.
Yes.
And I said, this is what has to happen. We need to be able to provide service within the assisted living so that they don't have to farm out their dogs. Of course, if you're a mobile right now, go find them.
I do four different.
Yeah, Broadway proper here. Go solicit a time in a parking place, and because those people need clean pets, and
it's a hygiene issue for them.
It's a hygiene issue.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the parts of our service that gets overlooked too much is that because there's seems to still be a view that bathing your pet is kind of a luxury service, and that it's for the appearance
Right.
and the smell of the dog. But no, it's actually a very serious hygiene thing that if we're living this close, face to face with these animals, we need to be ridding their bodies of things that could cause a problem to old people.
Absolutely. Well, I do think that servicing the people at assisted living is important, and it'd be nice if they had a self-wash in there. But truthfully, space is limited. So what I was thinking while I was listening to the traveling groomers is if they could put a dog wash station in the beauty parlor, because they all have beauty parlors. Every one of them has a beauty parlor with 2 or 3
Well,
chairs.
yeah, well, that's why I think they should also have a dog parlor.
Well, if they could put it in the same spot, because the beauty parlor is only used 1 day a week, but space is limited in these places. So, at least around here, the space or the extra rooms are limited. So, if they could dedicate a little bit of the beauty parlor area to the dog grooming on days when the beauty parlor hairstylist lady, whatever you call that, I should know. It's hairstylist, right? When the hair,
Right.
obviously, I don't go. But
Clearly.
yes, but I love going in there and seeing all the blue-haired ladies lined up in the hallway in their waiting chairs for the lady that comes in and cuts their hair. And I've thought, oh, this is great. But to even schedule yourself 1 day a month to go buy an assisted living in your mobile unit, I think is a great way to service those people's pets as well. And I do both assisted living and senior housing units. Now, I do some of that as my community outreach charity because these people can't pay. This lady can't pay a lot to have her little Pekingese blown out, but I loved it. It was so gratifying. I just love it when that hair just blows away. And then right afterwards, I went to my rat rescue lady friend who she's got like a gigantic rat rescue in her house. It's so much fun to go there because I play with all the babies. Anyway, I did her Pomeranian Pekingese. It's either not Pomeranian Pekingese. It's a Pomeranian Papillon or a thick coated Papillon. You know, those occasional Papillons that are really look like they're more Pomeranian than they are Papillon, but they still have the long ear hair and the feathered feet and all that really heavily feathered feet. I have one of those. And I haven't seen him for 2 months, and he was releasing coat also. So I powered through, and it's like a cotton candy machine. I love it. Standing there, I'm still brushing dog hair out of my own hair this morning, but I love those kind of transformations, as to use your words in your shop name, that kind of a transformation that doesn't take me scissoring, but it really does make a dramatic effect on the way the coat feels and the way the dog feels and just the look and the flow and everything. It was just so much fun. And I do have to thank Best Shop for that. So there you go. Okay, how about we move on to our first appointment, which is all about tear staining. Tear staining is something we all deal with all the time because all of our little dogs with their squished up faces seem to have this excessive tearing thing. So yes, she's say hello. Although I don't see a lot of tearing on him.
Well, no, but he's got a little eye infection going, and that's another matter, and it's because he rubs his head and he rubs his hair out of his ponytails and into his eyes and stuff like that happens. Yeah, he's got a more serious problem going in it.
So here we go. Mojo, meet the groomers. Groomers, meet Mojo. You guys hear Mojo often enough, but you've never really,
Marco.
Mojo.
Mojo is such a good name, though. Can I change your name?
It's because Denise at Macers, she has
Yeah.
a Mojo that looked just like Marco. So I'm
Oh,
looking at Marco and I'm thinking about Mojo, who I used in creative and is a really old dog at this point. But yeah. So anyway, what is tear staining? Do you know what makes up the tear staining?
oh, tell me.
Oh, good. I will because I've been researching. Now, disclaimer here, I'm not a vet, but I am a vet tech. So I do have some veterinary background. And I did a bunch of extra research this morning to see if there was anything new and different or evolving in the tear stain arena. And
Arena, yeah.
there really isn't. It really is. They do really kind of know what it is and know what it's from. Fixing it is a harder problem. So let's start out with just what is the tear staining. And it's actually a dye molecule inside of your blood, and it's called porphyrin. Porphyrin. And rats have it when they get a snotty nose and you see a little redness that comes out of their nose. That's not blood, it's porphyrin. And what porphyrin actually is an iron molecule that's produced when the blood gets broken down into its individual parts by the body. And it's normally in humans, it's excreted through bile in the intestine tract and occasionally through urine. But in dogs specifically, it is it is excreted through tears and saliva and urine. So all the places that we see the staining, like on in the private parts area or where they're licking at their feet or around the face, those are all places where we see that kind of staining. And that's because it's excreting those iron molecules uh, out in those spots. And then when it hits the sunshine or sunlight or UV rays, it darkens, and that's what makes the discoloration. And all dogs have some of it if they have excessive tearing, but darker dogs you just don't see it as much. Oftentimes, there can be a secondary infection, though, because when the area is wet all the time from the excessive tearing or the licking, you can also get bacterial infections or yeast or other things that go on. Those are secondary and not actually part of the tear staining subject, but they do affect what goes on there. So, why is this happening though? And it seems to happen mostly in small dogs. And I read that Cocker Spaniels are the most likely dog to have a blocked tear duct. Isn't that interesting?
Huh.
Yeah, I didn't know that. But our breeding of these squished faces and these big, gigantic eyed dogs are really creating part of the problem. Uh, so it's all about excessive tearing. In this case, excessive tearing or licking, but we'll deal with the tearing part here. One of the ways, there's lots of ways that eyes get irritated and produce tearing. One of the things to know is that if you've got puppies that have staining, puppies, when they're teething, produce excess saliva and excess tears. It's part of the teething process. So don't panic if your puppy has staining. You could actually wait a little while until the dog grows up to see if that kind of clears itself up, because oftentimes when the teething stops and the baby teeth drop out, then the tearing stops. So that's just a little point of fact. But eyelids that roll in and also cause I think it's called entropin, where the eyelashes scrape against the eyeball surface. That will cause excessive tearing. Also, hair growth can wick the moisture away, like in these Shih Tzus or the Pekingese that have rolls, that have hair on the rolls. Then that hair touches the eyeball and it actually wicks the tearing away, and then your eyes produce more tearing to cut. Not your eyes, but the dog's eyes. Hopefully, you don't. Hopefully, you don't have
I'm crying just thinking about it.
and then that wicks away and creates more there. The like I said, eyelashes that turn in. Also, scarring from the dog constantly rubbing if they have allergies or if they have eye infections, or even scarring from infections itself or eye problems can cause the excessive tearing, and then excessive tearing meets sunlight and you get staining. Also, one last reason to get eye staining is physiological, is a blocked tear duct or a tear duct that's pinched off because of the way the dog is built, just the construction of the dog, just nature put it together and we mutated it, and now it's got a crook in it and it leaks out over the edge, or the eye socket is shallow and it leaks out over the edge. So
So some dogs physiologically are prone, and
yes,
some dogs are like genetically prone.
yep,
And some breeders will always say, well, there's no tear staining in my line.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And then there's that last, let's call it the X factor, and that is diet. Because diet seems to have some effect on some eye staining. But here's the thing, there's so many different causes for eye staining that you have to approach it in so many different ways. So, what are things that we as groomers can do? Right? Well, we can have the talk first of all, because their owner is going to come to us and say, "Oh my gosh, Fluffy's face stinks, and she's constantly got this dark staining coming out of her eyes." I know some Shih Tzus have that, but is there anything we can do? The first thing I'm going to suggest, Barbara, is that we're going to have the food talk. I'm going to ask what food you're feeding, because before even a vet visit, a change in diet can rectify a lot of the stuff. You might find they're buying pet store food, and just getting on a better protein source will, in some cases, clear up some of the eye staining. And in reality, that's a pretty cheap fix. It pretty much doesn't cost anything. It just costs a change of food. You're already feeding the dog. I mean, you might have to feed something more expensive, but I've had some decent results with diet change. Do you ever do the diet change recommendation? Are you frozen? Well, I'm just here talking by myself. Apparently, we've lost Barbara. Barbara's frozen. Oh, well.
You're back. Am I back?
Oh, you're back. Yes.
I was just texting you.
So, do you ever do the diet change? Have you had results with that?
Well, okay.
Yeah, I've had real good results with that. And it's an easy place to start. And then after that, after we do the diet change, and remember, folks, if you're going to do a diet change to see the effects, it's going to be at least 6 to 8 weeks. Now, sometimes if the dogs are really affected by the food, you'll see the hair growth will start white, and underneath all that staining, when you blow dry the dog, you'll see white hairs start to grow, and you might notice it a little earlier than the owner will notice it, but it needs to work from the inside out in that particular case when it's a diet issue. So talk about diet, see if you can get them on a better food, and remind them that it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to really see a change in the way the staining looks if it's diet related, because like we know, not all of it is diet related. The next thing I always suggest if the diet thing doesn't work is a visit to the vet, because you got to check out those physiological things. Are there hairs poking in the dog's eyes? Is the tear duct blocked up? Is there something else going on? Is there an infection? Because before you can go any farther, really, as far as they're concerned, you've got to kind of rule that stuff out, because really that's the only other thing that needs treatment, because the rest of it is up to the owners and up to us. And that is, we've got to keep that air, that air. We got to keep that air. We have to keep that hair clipped out there. If there's a staining issue, you want to have the least amount of hair so that it's not wicking the most amount of stained of liquid away. So clip the hair down. I'm not generally a person who will use clippers in there, but I will get in there with my tiniest scissors and I will scissor off all of those little hairs and make it, at least as best as I can, make sure that the hair is not going to grow back too quickly in that area. Those are the dogs where after a little while I'll go, we need to kind of do the monkey face. We need to really rid ourselves of all of this hair in here, and I'll take it down fairly short on the top part of that muzzle. So that's one of the things we can do. Another thing is you've got to teach the owners how to keep that area clean at home. Like they should probably, I heard this. I don't know if you've heard this. You can tell me if you've heard this, that you can use contact cleaning solution that has like some boric acid or something in it.
That's my suggestion. That's where you heard it.
Oh, okay.
That's my suggestion.
I also read it too on these websites.
Yeah.
Too, so.
Well, good.
Okay, so tell me about that.
Well, it's just an easy and accessible way to keep the face clean, and the boric acid in the contact lens solution neutralizes the it's an antibiotic for the icky stuff. Okay, so cool. it just helps to help with the odor and all of that. Plus, it's just a very benign cleansing solution that it gives you a little bit more than what just warm water on a cotton ball might do. So
I love that you told me this and I absorbed it and then spit it back out at you. That's
Yeah, I know.
awesome.
I think it's great. Yeah, yeah. I've been talking about the contact lens solution with boric acid for a long time. And then the way that I hit on the with boric acid is that I noticed that many of the eye stain systems have a boric acid powder that you apply after you do the cleansing. So I thought, well, okay, so I understood what the boric acid was doing there on the face. And I noticed that it is in some contact lens solutions. So I said, well, that's what we can recommend that.
Cool. I like it. Do you cotton ball? Take a cotton ball in there
Yeah,
or do
a
you?
pad,
Oh, the pads.
yeah, the pads. I like cotton pads better than the balls, but that's me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I just don't usually carry the pads, but they sell them at Sally Beauty. They also have them at the dollar store.
Yeah, don't buy them at Target or those places because you pay a fortune.
Okay.
The you really can get good square cotton squares at Sally Beauty.
So let's talk about products that are out there on the market that people use. As far as I understand, the really good products that actually effectively work for this have an antibiotic in it and have now been taken off the market.
That's exactly true. The antibiotic was Tylosin,
That's right. And
and
it worked.
and it worked very well, and it worked in very low dosage, uh, and it is more Tylosin is commonly used in poultry to um, manage diseases in poultry. And so they managed to make it in a powder form with and the downside of Tylosin is that it was terrible tasting, just yuck. And so they couldn't, so in order to get dogs to eat the Tylosin, they would put it in powders with, beef liver or chicken liver or, various flavors that would hopefully uh, reduce the kind of nasty, bitter taste of the Tylosin. And the Angel Eyes was one of the first ones. It was a very successful product, and I sold Angel Glows, which was a branch off of. They had a fight and broke up, and one kept the name Angel Eyes, and the other became Angel Glow. And there's all this drama behind the scenes around that. That was interesting, and but the FDA went in the market, finally got wind of it, and the first thing that we noticed was that shipments to Canada were not making it through. So Canada kind of caught on first, and they banned it in products. And so they would confiscate your Angel Eyes or Angel Glow that you're trying to send to customers in Canada. And you know what, when customs confiscates something, they're not obliged to tell you and give you a reason or
Yeah.
anything. They just disappear it, you know. They just disappear it, and you have to figure it out. Well, it's not going through anymore, and then they figure out, well, it was the Tylosin ban. And then a couple of years later, USDA got wind of it, and they made the tear staining product people not use the Tylosin anymore, and so their products just became less effective.
Okay.
Period.
I'm going to say they became ineffective because they
Yeah.
really don't do anything, in my
Don't do
opinion.
jack. I don't think they do jack. You
Yeah.
know,
Filtered water. People talk about filtered water.
yeah, that doesn't. No,
I don't,
that's a
yeah.
myth.
Yeah.
You can find Maltese websites. With the Maltese groups are famous for talking about tear stain,
Oh, that
and
makes sense.
there's like you can do everything in the world and still have the damn tear staining, or sometimes changing something helps, but it's rarely the water. That's really a myth. um, but the truth is that if you do anything cleaning and tending to every day,
Yeah,
you're
that's
gonna
really the
have,
best.
that's really, like, and so, and and I've tried the eye stain, with the letter I. I've tried the pampered pooch or whatever. I've tried a lot of these, and I find it hard to remember to, or hard to get around to doing it every day, and therefore I have only myself to blame.
Oh,
Uh,
one important thing before we pass too far along, teeth cleaning. If the teeth are
yeah,
bad, that can create all kinds of problems in the sinuses, including excessive staining. So if it look for that, that should be like one of the before the vet visit things. Pull up those teeth. I'm pulling out my teeth. Oh, actually, you guys
yeah.
can see this.
You
Pull
can
up
look
the
at
teeth.
can look
Have
at
a look back
Marco's
there.
teeth and see he's got bad teeth, and eh,
Yeah,
he doesn't.
but
He
that's
won't let us look.
yeah,
So,
so I guess what we're trying to say is there is no panacea. There's nothing that will fix it. There's no one solution, but there are things you can try to change that will help make it better. And treat those yeast infections when they show up and the bacterial infections when they show up. When the face starts smelling really bad, that's an indication of something growing in there that probably could use a little vet visit and some medication.
and some boric acid powder.
Yay!
Yay.
All right. So, Barbara, my favorite thing to do these days is to play with my evolution shears because I'm learning how to scissor with them, to finish scissor with them. I love them for
Good.
like, yeah, they're just a fantastic.
Anything that gets you to enjoy scissor finishing, I'm all for.
I do. Nothing will beat my clipper vac, but I do scissor finish every single dog. But more often than not, I'm grabbing these fantastic swivel shears from Evolution. They're so well built. They really make my hands feel great. As a matter of fact, I noticed the other day my hands don't hurt very much these days because I'm taping them every day and because of those shears. I'm sure that makes a difference.
I was
That
going to
and
tell you what's made a difference with my hands
yeah,
lately is
what?
that I started supplementing with turmeric plus black pepper.
I've heard the turmeric thing. Are you taking
Yeah,
it orally?
yeah. And I had tried turmeric before and didn't notice an improvement. And then my poodle person, who happens to be a doctor and all that good stuff, she said, you need to try the turmeric with black pepper because the black pepper helps the turmeric do its thing. And I swear, my finger trigger fingers aren't triggering, and my hands are making it through the hard days so much better. I really have noticed an improvement.
Excellent. Yeah, me too. I'm gonna have to try that turmeric though. They have it at Costco. Costco's my favorite place to shop next to
Well, you know what?
Amazon.
Hey, I found this turmeric plus black pepper made in Okinawa. Okinawa is kind of a flag for health. Um, at Walmart.
Oh, I believe it.
I
I
couldn't
believe it.
find it at Whole Foods. I couldn't find it, in my at Fry's, nowhere. But at there it was, bingo, at Walmart. So just look for the turmeric plus black pepper.
Cool. So if you guys would also like to get a pair of Evolution shears, if you mention that you heard it on the GroomPod, they give you like $10 off each pair, which is awesome. And you can find all of the information about Evolution shears at their website, evolutionshears.com, or you can give them a call, 877-560-3057, and talk to Abby, Ron, or Chris and get yourself a pair too. All right, Barbara, it's back to school time. Let's talk definition du jour. And yeah, and we're going to talk about Earth Day, Earth Day and our
Yes.
environmental
So
footprint.
yeah. So like I noticed that Monday is Earth Day. So I thought, well, let's celebrate that. Let's talk a little bit about that. You know, one of the things that happened, I think it was just last week, that had an impact on me, had nothing to do with grooming, but I got kind of sucked into uh, on the computer looking at the Webby Awards. Have you ever checked out the? God, what an amazing, I spent all day. No kidding. I took a mental vacation, physical and mental vacation, just going, visiting all of these websites that have been nominated for a Webby. And there's a couple of dozen categories. Some categories are so superficial that I didn't bother with them. But there was, like all kinds of things relating to important issues of our day, including climate change and plastics in the ocean and all of that kind of stuff. So it just psyched up my awareness. Well, I loved it. And it's just a magnificent way to see what's available on the internet and how the web can serve. Oh man, it was something else. So anyway, Earth Day then flagged me up, got my bunny ears perked up, and I said, "Well, what is an environmental footprint? I want to improve my environmental footprint, or what is my environmental footprint?" So it's more called ecological footprint, and
Okay.
it has to do with it's a very holistic concept, and they pretend to try to measure it and everything, but it has to do with how products are manufactured, what you use, what you don't use, do you turn off your lights, do you this, do you that, and there's just a lot of kind of consciousness raising that goes on if you read up a little bit on environmental impact studies and your environment, your carbon being a chemical, a element that's in everything that we're using up in fuels and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought that for Earth Day, I would see what I could learn about this environmental footprint, and I'll give you an actual formal definition as I seek my notes.
Note seeking. You guys usually, I edit this out, but you get to see it firsthand when Barbara looks for her notes.
Okay, so here's the difference. The simplest way to define ecological footprint would be to call it the impact of human activities measured in terms of the area of biologically productive land and water required to produce the goods consumed and to assimilate the wastes generated.
So it's a big picture thing.
It's a big picture thing. Now, here's some energy saving features that one could do in a shop. Okay, compact fluorescent bulbs, energy efficient appliances, extra insulation, solar panels, storm doors and windows. We don't have that in Arizona. Water saving fixtures. Water saving fixtures. Oh my God, we use a lot of water as groomers. Isn't that
Totally.
one? Totally. That's our big consumption. So if you want to be concerned about water saving and perhaps minimize your water usage, I would recommend, what do you think, Susie?
A recirculating bathing system.
Amen, sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amen, sister. Because you're going to use like a fourth to a third of the water with the with a recirculating bathing system. And especially important is the fact that the recirculating bathing rinses while it cleans. So you eliminate that rinse kind of stuff where you're just like pouring water on the dog and off down into the drain. So you're doing almost everything with recirculating. And when you're in a mobile, you actually can do your rinsing recirculating and not worry about the tiniest little bit of something that gets left on the dog, because that a tiny little amount of
That's
shampoo is not a big deal.
Yeah, and actually, I find that since now I've learned that I need to condition more than I was before. I mean, I'm tight with the water because conditioning uses more water.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, so instead of completely rinsing the dog off, I give the dog a decent rinse as I'm washing my soap suds down the bathtub, but I don't worry so much about getting all the shampoo off. I just plug my bathtub off and then I condition the dog with the little residue of shampoo that's already quite diluted anyway and probably full of dirt at this point. So I seem to have saved a little bit of time and water in using in not rinsing that dog quite so much between the condition and shampoo steps. But
Okay,
I
so I've gone a step further.
Yes.
I've started using more conditioning shampoos.
Oh yeah, okay.
And one of the ways that I do that is I use um, a silicone product called The Stuff,
Mm-hmm.
which it could also be Chris Christensen's slick. Oh God, help me! Ice on
Nice
ice,
and nice.
and any of these kind of all-purpose silicone products. But the stuff dilutes very well through the Bathing Beauty. So we take the stuff, we dilute it 16 to 1, put that in a bottle, and we would measure out an ounce of the diluted product and add it to the shampoo solution. And it just makes it be a conditioning shampoo because there are a lot of dogs that don't need a, a heavy rinse through conditioner. And one of the products that I've found that works really well that way is the Show Season Bright shampoo.
Oh yeah.
It's got a little bit of silicone in it that makes it be the bright. And then I add a shot of the stuff, and I don't need to do anything more. I did 2 major scissored miniature poodle scissor cuts yesterday. Well, that was all the because you on those coats you don't want too much conditioner. So I have kind of. And the other thing that happens when you start using the recirculating bathing system, rarely do you really need to do 2 baths.
Yeah, I
But
hardly ever do two
I just
baths.
want to raise the entire question to the entire grooming universe. Do you really need to do 2 baths, or do you need to get a better bather? I think we do that because we're afraid that we're not going to give a thorough bath. But the truth is, on many of our regular customers, they don't need 2 baths. There are, this is the season where we start seeing farm dogs and once a year dogs and all of that kind of stuff. Those are the dogs that are going to maybe need 2 baths. But a lot, I think everybody could be reevaluated. And I think that if the bathing team makes a commitment to reducing their ecological footprint, they could probably find ways which dogs could do with 1 bath, which dogs where can you do a conditioning shampoo instead of look how much water do you use if you do a wet down. Shampoo 1, rinse. Shampoo 2, rinse. Conditioner, rinse, 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 rinse. That's so much water. Can you do a bath? Let's try to do a bath in less than 5 gallons of water
Yeah,
for
I
the
have to do
whole.
that regularly, so
Yeah,
that's
see,
a good goal.
yeah, I think 5 gallons is a good goal, don't you?
Yep.
And how would you measure that? You'll have to figure a way.
Yeah.
But maybe look through the lens of water usage. Go, observe your bathing procedure through that lens and see what you see. So the whole deal about reducing your environmental impact is to change your perception so that you're looking for ways in which to make a difference. Now, I went so far as to and I'm going to make a pledge. I'm going to do an Earth Day pledge, and I challenge everybody to make an Earth Day pledge of a way you are going to reduce your carbon footprint. My pledge is because I have a bad habit of leaving lights on. And you know what? I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm scared of the dark. I am. It comes from my childhood. It's stupid, but I get a little bit disoriented, and it's freaky. I don't like dark. I just leave all the lights on. Well, it's not necessary. So I'm going to make a pledge to start doing of actually turning off lights when leaving rooms. So, and of course, one of the things they suggest is dry clothes outside wherever possible. Forget that. F that.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah, and well, you can't do that because they would never dry.
That's
You're so
right.
humid up there.
I know something we can all do. Well, I can't.
You can
stop using the damn water bottles. So throwing away water bottles, that drives me nuts. The amounts of stupid water bottles. There's water in the tap. Fill up your own water bottle. It's so easy. Carry a water bottle and fill it up. Take it to work, fill it up.
Oh, I hate tap water. I won't. I
drank your tap water. I totally understand why you don't like it. You've drank ours. It's fabulous.
I have a water filter pitcher that I use. That's okay, and but I still buy bottled water. But I have good recycling.
Well, that works too.
I have good recycling, and I can recycle every bottle.
I recycle my cans.
Yeah, I recycle a lot of stuff. My community has good recycling. We're at risk of losing some of it, though, because thanks to the Trumpster, China has stopped accepting some of the materials that we used to send off. So that we in Tucson, we're at risk of losing. We're still going to have. Well, we're at risk of losing some recycling.
Yeah,
maybe it's the cans.
We've had to start sorting a little differently here.
Yeah, it's so. Let me see another thing, another place where we use a lot of energy that's hard to cut down on is our drying procedures.
For sure.
A lot of electricity that way. And the main recommendation that I can make for that to cut down on that is to use more toweling. Towel more because toweling as completely as you can before you start to high velocity, because young bathers think, well, I'm just going to blow it off. There are places they don't even use towels, Susie. I've heard of it. We never use towels. We just blow it all off. But you know what happens? You blow off all of that water. It goes right into the air over your table, in your area. And the more you saturate the area in there, the longer it's going to take you to dry. And so you want to absorb on towels as much as you can. And before you start to consume energy with those high electric sucking dryers.
I got another suggestion.
Dryers. What's that?
Learn how to let the dog do some of that work, because when I started grooming, my teacher said, lift the ear flap and blow in the dog's ear, and that dog will shake off more water than you can towel off. And it's true, because it all lands on me because I have nowhere to go, but I do it. I always have the dog shake off as much water as they can when they're standing in the tub by themselves before I even start to get in there with my towel.
Have you ever bathed a husky who would shake off the water as fast as you could put it on them?
Oh, the pumpkins. Oh, yeah.
These huskies hate to be wet. I don't know what it is, but they got some kind of a genetic response to that. They would just shake it all off. You would get so wet doing the husky. Okay, so that's a thought, is to use more toweling. Of course, then you have to think about washing the towels.
Yep.
So
Everything's
Is
got a
there
give and
everything's,
take.
yeah. So can you reuse those towels in another way? You know, like, do you have to uh, toss a towel in the hamper if you've just toweled off a really clean little white fluffy Maltese that gets bathed every week? No.
I'll
You could
use that under on the table for the next dog.
Yeah, you could hang that up and it could be, you could hang it up and let it air dry. And then you could have those once used towels to use on the tables. I got a new table topper thing. Oh
Yeah,
man, do we love it. It just really soaks up a lot of water. That's just another saver in drying, because what happens is that sometimes the water just bounces off the tabletop and back onto the legs of the dog. I always wished that we had a some kind of a slow-mo camera that where we could capture the movement of the water off the dog as we dry, so that we could see how we're pushing water around, instead of so becoming more efficient in your drying is really a good thing for Mother Earth. What
I
else can we
agree.
do? What else? Let me see if I have anything else. Okay. So, I what about, so are you recycling your gallon jugs? That's a thing. I not only do
Always.
I have good recycling, but there's a somebody in our Tucson neighborhood association who is takes gallon jugs and plastic bags and makes poop pickup stations throughout the hood to help dog walker people
That's
manage
cool.
their messes. So that's a reuse. So I don't have as much of a cringe effect throwing away a plastic bag that's got dog poop in it as I do just a one use and toss kind of thing. I found in my own manufacturing of the aromatherapy, I started a new rather a reuse option thing that's kind of cool. I
Yeah.
was packaging using Ziploc bags. Now I'm packaging reusing the Ziploc bags that come in the Trader Joe's coffee pods.
Good idea.
Isn't that a good idea? So
Yes.
now instead of just having a bag full of those bags, I've got them all pressed and ready to just like take on some bottles of essential oils. I was so proud of myself. Yeah, reuse, reuse.
I
So
just thought of a tip. I just thought of a tip, but it goes back to the dryer thing. But
yeah,
I just want to say keep your dryer filters clean, because if the airflow is restricted, your dryer is not running efficiently. So very important. Keep
yeah,
those
keep
filters clean.
keep the filters clean. And here's what I keep finding. I keep finding the canister up against the wall, back side to the wall. I say, no, you can't do it this way. You gotta have airflow into that dryer. You're just gonna burn up your motor for
Yep.
one thing.
Yep.
So listen, can I do a live my live ad? I want to segue here
Okay.
into while I was thinking about um environmental footprint. I thought that I would ask Sandy at show season what kinds of things they've done at their plant to minimize their carbon footprint, because I know that she's kind of conscious, she's kind of a tree hugger. And I want to read to you some of the things that they do at show season. This is our ad. Oh, here's one thing that they do. They make rain barrel kits out of old drums.
That's
You know,
awesome.
they get their supplies, they get their ingredients in these 50-gallon drums. And they use a lot of them. So then they offer them free to anybody who wants them.
Nice.
And the rest of the plastic drums are picked up by and recycled by a drum company, which they clean and reuse. So that I thought that was really cool. So here's what she says: all our cardboard is recycled. We have tons. We recently painted our warehouse roof with a white polymer sealant that's supposed to reflect the sun and prevent intense heating of our warehouse in the summer. Well, we do that on all our homes
Yeah, I
here in
bet.
Tucson. Yeah, we know that. Um, with the new installation of our AC and Nest thermostat, we've reduced cooling costs by 25%.
That's
All
great.
all light switches were changed to sensory panels, no more lights left on in offices. All warehouse fluorescents changed to LED, including outdoor floodlights. And so I said to her, don't you also minimize overseas chemical supplies? Because that shipment of things from China, that adds huge carbon things. So and that's when she says, yes, and we do the rain barrel thing. We definitely shop USA. We discourage overseas ingredients and sourcing.
I love them
And
for that.
I love them for all of this.
Yeah.
And here's another thing she did. I also bought shares on a solar grid through Georgia Power, much easier than installing it myself.
Yeah, I've done the same thing here.
And I said,
I got one power.
uh, and in terms of her own packing and shipping, packing peanuts are cornstarch. I can testify to that because Marco eats them. So I said, Sandy, have you thought about finding a way to replace plastic gallon jugs? She said, I tried pouches and it didn't go well. And
Yeah, that's a
I
tough one.
I said, the laundry detergent folks will come up with a plastic alternative soon. They will be the first to give us cardboard boxes of liquid laundry soap. I said, watch seventh generation for innovation. I said, she
Sure.
said, I tried the shampoo gel packs in a trial and it failed miserably. She said, it was like a bad menstrual cycle. She's gonna hate me for putting that in, but it was so funny. Sandy at Show Seasons is not only so conscientious, but she also has a terrific sense of humor. And if you've never met her, you really need to go by a Show Season. Either call her and order something and do it with her. You know, she's so much fun. She's just really bright and responsive, you know, and empathetic, and I just love them over there. And so that's my Show Season live advertisement for today.
All right. Then let's go over to our what time is it?
I have 11:31.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go to the at the table segment, which is a little bit of chat from a Facebook question about back brushing. And I thought, Barbara, you had an interesting take on this. So I'm going to look up the question if I can find it really quickly here. I had it pulled up, but I've long since closed it down. Tap dance for a minute, Barbara.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, you know, I really like this backdrop today.
Oh,
I
I
think
do
I
too.
think this is just so attractive, and and you know, it's not even that big a deal that the fabric is a little bit short of the frame, because this blue isn't, you know, is not too bad.
No,
So
it looks
I
great.
think it frames the speaker very well.
And when the sun comes in, it lights you up and it
Yeah,
lights the backdrop up. It's like,
yeah.
ah! Okay. So Heather Lee asks, how many of you back brush to get a smooth cut? Is this a very bad thing to do? And 74 comments were made on this thread.
Gee.
Yeah, so I thought it was interesting. Now, full disclosure on my side, I clip with suction, so I don't have to do a lot of back brushing, but I don't really back brush, but I do pull the coat out and scissor it finished smooth. So I don't know if that's what she's meaning by back brushing, or
Well,
is she actually mean taking a slicker
not
and going
yeah,
backward?
they actually mean taking the slicker and going backwards as a way to like set up the coat for clipping or scissoring. And it's just a kind of rush job way of like, let's say you're doing a doodle.
Okay.
So use your slicker brush and just do long strokes and brush that hair up. That I've seen them do it. I prefer to first of all, I prefer to work on a dog that's been well blown out and straightened, and the hair stood up by the bather,
Right.
and then I do my thing. But I'm like you. I would rather do an area and use the comb, and I worry. In terms of coat damage, we need to minimize our use of the slicker brushes. We need to minimize our use of the slicker brushes on any coats that we are growing, like your Pekingese, your Pomeranian, anything that's going to have a coat that stays on the dog for a few years. Um, they're just brutal.
Yeah.
And
So the purpose is the purpose of doing that. Don't you then end up with a bunch of different lengths of hair, since you're not really, so you're, instead of pulling the hair out and then cutting down with your clipper comb and then pulling it back out and cutting down, if you're combing it all the way backwards, isn't that not I mean, you're not getting the same effect, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
No. Doesn't matter.
Get a clipper vac, Heather. Get a goddamn clipper vac.
No, I did some full length back combing backwards. Now, back combing really refers to like when you take the hair and you
teasing it like a beehive,
teasing it,
right?
and that's probably the worst thing you could do to any hair, man or beast.
Yeah.
But when I was scissoring my poodles yesterday, well, I did one that I went from pretty full sculptured lamb, competition grooming type lamb, into a summer one length all over lamb. And when I was working on his legs, I combed all the way up back against the grain. It's just a matter of technique, whether you use the brush or whether you use the comb. But combs are more hair friendly than our brushes.
Well, I'll happily clip in reverse, though. I clip backwards, no
Yeah,
problem.
and there are some people see. So there is a question that was raised in that thread was, does back brushing damage the hair follicle?
How would it do that? Huh?
Didn't you read Michelle Knowles'
No.
response?
I got lost in the middle, and then I went on to other things.
There are some okay. There are some people that think that when you work the coat against the grain, you can damage the hair follicle.
Okay.
I don't think. I think you would have to be fairly violent. Things that damage the hair like burns and excessive scraping. Sometimes the 40 blade surgical blade things on dogs, it can maybe not grow back. But just general finish grooming, where you're lightly going back in order to get it all to be the same length, Susie. People who do it swear that gives them a much better end result than if they just go with the grain. A lot on the kind of coat and what if you want a real plush result, then some of this backwards stuff makes sense, like clipping backwards. You can get a really velvet-like plush result on a cocker if you do 7 blade in reverse with your vac system. And likewise, if you're scissoring for a really perfect plush result, you can comb against the grain up to get it to all stand up and line up so that when you scissor it, it's not, there's no tips bent in or no. The more wavy and unstraightened the hair, the more that it can change over the period of between the next groom, and then you have uneven result. But when I do something informal, and like I call doodle grooming informal grooming.
Yeah, absolutely.
How I distinguish my doodles from my poodles is that my poodles get plush finish, my doodles get rough finish.
Right.
You know, yeah.
So, okay, so I can see where there would be benefit to that then, doing it that way. That makes sense. But I don't know that like I don't know that I would change what I'm doing. I don't think I need to start back brushing to make my average
No,
haircuts more
I don't.
average.
I no see because suction is one of the ways to pull the hair up.
Right.
Suction you can and blow drying is another way. You can actually blow that hair, and when we deshed, we blow against the grain, don't we
Yes.
blow against the grain and you wiggle the air a little bit, that gets that air to move the hair right at the skin to come off. Well, some people think that when you're working against the natural down angle of the hair, you're inviting bacteria get to get into the hair follicle and this kind of stuff. But I say if you're working on a just clean dog, you shouldn't have that problem. If you're working on a just clean dog with clean tools.
So tell me this. Hair's flexible, right? Obviously, hair's flexible. And
Yeah.
where it comes out of the skin, it's flexible there too, isn't it? I mean, even though it generally grows in one direction, you can still push it the other direction without hurting it, right? Does that make sense? I mean, how are you like just because I put my ponytail up here and comb my hair this way doesn't mean I'm hurting the follicle, does it? Or maybe it does.
Well, actually, you are doing a lot of damage, and you can just because you can just look at your
Well,
hair.
that's because I'm
So,
doing it like this.
yeah, besides you're wearing headphones, but
Yeah.
well,
Just
I don't
because of
know.
the flexible nature of hair, I would think that it's built to kind of be pushed backwards occasionally. But, that's just going on
Well,
nature, just nature like sometimes pushes the hair the other direction.
well, sometimes nature lifts its own hair up too, and the hackles
Right.
get raised,
Right.
and that's no big deal. But no, I think it's the whole idea of that you're opening the hair follicle
Okay.
more by doing that. So you're inviting damage right around the end opening pore area of the hair follicle. But I think that overall, what I would like to see, I don't care if you back brush, but I would prefer you to back brush. I would prefer you to use a comb or a pin brush or anything besides a slicker. And, where I would use a slicker is when I'm drying the bottoms of the feet and I want to get the ankles. So that hair is all coming out straight because what happens if you don't go against the grain out there. Sometimes you're not dry to the skin on the very bottom, on the very part of where the leg meets the foot. Um, and
And
if
then it
it's
curls.
and then it curls, and then it's really hard to get a nice result there. When you go to scissor there, it's just like wonky.
Yes.
But here's my thing. I would like us as groomers to take a gentler approach to hair that we work on. Not take the hair's strength and durability for granted, and not to minimize the damage that we do by uh, hard brushing, pointy, sharp instruments, pulling and dematting and breaking hair, and just be more gentle to the hair.
I can do that.
I can do that.
All right. I can do that. I can reduce my footprint. I got to figure out how, but I'll find something. Oh,
Well,
I
I
know.
want everybody to find at least one thing you can do and post it on the GroomPod Facebook list. My pledge. What is your Earth Day pledge? Come on, play with me. you know.
I'll figure something out and I'll put it up there. Everybody join in with the fun. And I think we're going to call this one a day, Barbara. I think it's been fun to do this live. I'm going to try my very best not to edit this at all. I'm just going to put it out there because I'm still trying to catch up from last week. We had fun with futons here at the Scott household when we tried to assemble a futon that we got off of Facebook Marketplace with no instructions and no picture. Yeah. I might have actually had the podcast up if we hadn't had 2 days of that. But I'll get the other podcast up here pretty quickly. And yeah, that's it. Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching us live. It's been a pleasure as always. Every time you go to your shop and you get cooled off, think about all of the support that you have behind you, holding you up.
I got the love. I got the love, folks. Thank you so much. It really does make me weep.
No crying. There's no crying in group. Okay, there is crying. All right, everybody. Happy grooming. See you next week on the GroomPod. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.